Hey NAI football fans, Corey Thorpe here with another edition of the NAIFBALL Podcast, powered by AdCraft USA, your custom apparel, merch, and uniform experts. Our friends at AdCraft have been with us for many years now. They've run web stores for us multiple times. These guys are NAI fans and family who are experts in the apparel and merchandise world. AdCraft allows you to take the hassle out of ordering. Let their knowledgeable design and customer service staff handle everything from hosting the store online, shipping the product, and helping your customers so you can get back to the game. Find them online at adcraftusa.com. All right, NAI football fans, this is Corey Thorpe back with another edition of the NAIFBALL Podcast, powered by AdCraft Custom Apparel and Merch. You heard them in the intro. They are the best. Been in business over 50 years now. You got to check them out for your apparel. But tonight we've got the pride of the North Star and, well, the last champ of the North Star, Pete Stanton from Dickinson State. Coach, how you doing this Sunday evening?
Good.
Excellent. It is it a little weird? Have you gotten used to being a Frontier team yet, or do you still kind of respond to North Star?
Yeah, no, we have, with especially with, the past, with particularly with Dickinson State, we've played a lot of the Frontier teams over the years, whether it's non-conference, recently, Rocky Mountain and we've played Montana Western and we played Northern Montana and in those teams non-conference. And then we've played multiple teams, in the playoffs as well. So we have quite a bit of familiarity with the Frontier Conference. Dickinson State does. The other North Star schools haven't played those schools a lot, although Northern, played Mayville this last year, so there is some.
Yeah, and it's going to be fun looking at it. You add in, of course, Simpson, who was not in conference last year, getting that program going. Plus, you're adding Bismarck State. This is gonna be a huge conference that's gonna go. We talked to folks in the Heart, and they're going, we're the biggest conference. Well, the Frontier is going to be right there, nipping at their heels after this. Talk to me about one, the travel, but two, what it's going to mean for those teams in the prior North Star to be able to get a chance at that second auto bid.
Yeah, as you said, it's definitely going to be the Frontier is going to be a great name for it now as far as the amount of distance. But I think it's going to be a really, really good thing for the teams coming in with our conference, and I think it gives obviously the former North Star teams a lot of stability, having a 14-team conference, a 7 and a 7, type of conference, and I was on the transition committee to help, set up some of the schedules and things like that. And we really tried to do as well as we could do, in limiting it to one flight a year. Guaranteed everybody was going to get 5 home games. You're going to play those 6 teams within your division, but you're also going to cross over and play a couple teams and still keep, for the Montana schools, for them to be able to still continue to keep their rivalries games as crossovers. What's going to be a little unique about it is you're having kind of a Montana Tech and, who's 60 miles away, from Carroll and from Montana Western and not being in the same league. But yet they're still going to play those schools, crossover wise, so they'll be able to maintain those rivalries, and we'll be able to do the same with some of the schools that we played in the past.
I know one thing about it in the Frontier, you got to be ready with a signal caller that's ready to go and possibly can run too. It's almost like it's a requirement almost for the Frontier, feels like at times, but we'll get to that in a minute. Let's take a look at your schedule over the last year. Obviously, you start out playing a Rocky Mountain at home. That's a good win over a Rocky Mountain team who's trying to find its footing again after a couple of good years. But we'll pick out the game against Wisconsin Stout. Obviously, any of those University of Wisconsin system teams You're going to have a tough battle on your hands. But this one, I just want to remark a little bit on your players being down 22-0 at the end of 3, and almost midway through the 4th, you're able to claw your way back and really make this one a whale of a football
Yeah,
game. Talk to us about
yeah,
your team's
it
ability.
was very, very unique game for us. It was really uncharacteristic for us in that game. We had beaten them the year before, and it was a close game. But I'd never seen it as a coach, and in all the years that I've been doing it, we end up not only having 4 or 5 turnovers, but we end up having 3 of them in the end zone going in, turnover and going in, and then we also had one where a receiver, fell down as we're going in the other way, and the ball gets up in the air, and then they return it down to our 10-yard line. So it was one of those type of games that the ball just didn't bounce our way, and yet we still, came back and had a chance on the last play, really with a few seconds left to tie it up with a 2-point conversion. So our guys, that's one thing they're really are is very resilient. That didn't work out, but I think it really, helped us for down the road, knowing that we have to prepare and we have to be really, really good every week.
Yeah, with a 5-team Frontier, resilience has to be the name of the game, especially when you're playing these teams twice. You play Mayville twice. You played all of them twice. But being able to get the season sweep on all of those Frontier teams, resilience really was the name of the game for y'all. Go all the way to the end of the season here with that Kansas Wesleyan game. One, how great was it to get a home playoff game and host one at the Hank?
Yeah, it was great. Our community was excited about it. Our program was excited about it. We had been in the playoffs a lot of years, and if you look back, in the last 25 years that I've been able to be a part of the program, I think the first 4 years we had 4 or 5 home playoff games. And at that time, it was based on bidding, not so much where you were seated. And of course, with our community support and the things we have, we were able to put in very, very nice bids there and had a lot of those home games and won 3 or 4 of those home games in the early 2000s. And then after it went to a bidding, a seeding procedure, from 2015 on, we just weren't seated well enough to get that home game. So, we've been on the road quite a bit and on the road against some really, really good teams from the GPAC and from the Frontier. We've traveled to Grandview a couple times. So, we had a lot of really played a lot of good football teams in those first round games. So it was really nice to get home and to get a good win and a playoff win at home.
And then just looking at Kansas Wesleyan, I mean, the real challenge was to figure out how to keep that Kansas Wesleyan rushing attack kind of between the ditches and not letting anyone else, really score on you honestly, because you knew that Luke Armstrong was going to get his. The real treat was trying to figure out how you were going to make sure that, one, you got yours on offense and that you were able to keep kind of everyone else kind of tamped down aside from him.
Yeah, I think, that game really was a test of, you talk about perseverance and patience. That was it, because as you mentioned, Armstrong he's outstanding running back. Just a high motor and great cutting ability. And, they had us on the ropes there in the third quarter. And, then there was a fumble exchange between, the quarterback and tailback. We got the ball back. And I think then after that point, I believe we had we kicked a field goal, but I believe we had a 10-play drive and a 15-play drive and then a 16-play drive to end the game. And that was just really, really resilient by our guys to control the ball. And, we took it down at the end of the game, and we were going to be okay kicking a field goal too. And, we had a good play, and Will Madler ran it in, and it was just a good resilient game for our guys against, like you said, a team that had an outstanding running back.
Yeah, you look at that. That was a game where you were able to take 38 minutes in time of possession, 38 and a half actually, and especially in those last few drives, you called it 11, 15, and 16 there between the third and fourth quarters. That's just quick back of napkin math, 12, 17, almost 18 minutes off the clock between a buck, 6 minutes left in the third and the end of the game that's what I call Alabama-ing a team. Those years that Alabama used to just we're up, we're going to take the entire third quarter, and it's ours. Definitely a game of possession there. Obviously, the next week is not so good. It's a game where Michael Palandri comes out and has a whale of a ball game, almost 400 yards through the air, 5 touchdowns through the air. That's obviously that's not what you're looking for on defense.
No, they're an outstanding team. Montana Western is very good. They've been at the front, the champs of the Frontier Conference the last couple of years. Coach Norris does a great job with those guys, and as you mentioned, outstanding quarterback and receiving crew as well. And defensively, I think they were underrated too. They were very good on defense as well. And we were in decent shape. At halftime, being 10-0, and had some chances and came back in the third quarter and drove it down and missed a field goal and we're still 10-3 and really going into the fourth quarter 24-14. We have them third and long, and they had a really nice pass play, and the kid makes a great catch, and they take it in and score. And then from that point on, we had to gamble and take some, go for it on fourth down a couple times in our own territory, and things just got away, and they made us pay on that, and good teams do that. And like I say, they're a very, very good team. They're a team that we've played a couple times, in the past couple of years, non-conference as well. And they're a very good team.
So let's take a look at your squad coming back, and how you're going to replace a couple here, especially on offense. A couple of names that obviously the offense the last couple of years has run through Madler and Zuroff, but by the same token, you've got 2 first-team offensive linemen and a second-team offensive lineman that are seniors in Woodruff Bennick and Aranda Calixto. Talk to me about retooling your offense to get the ball to guys like Samaj Clark and Gage Gilbert.
Yeah, offensively, like you said, we lose some outstanding players. Will Madler was just great for us for 2 years, and he's the MVP of our conference offensively. And Braden Zuroff did an outstanding job. And he really, what people don't realize is how he really gutted through this season. And he was injured all season. His knee was giving him issues all year. Several times he wasn't able to carry the ball very many times. I think in the last 3 or 4 weeks he didn't even practice. Literally was just got him ready for Saturday, and he wanted to go, and so I felt bad for him, but that just shows his character. He still played hard and played well. So we're gonna miss him. In fact, we had 3 running backs injured during the right before the playoff run. So our 4th and 5th running backs were doing an outstanding job, but we were starting to run out of running backs in that playoff run. But yeah, you're correct. I mean, our offensive line, we have an All-American Scotty Woodruff. We lose on and Brandon Bennick and the crew that Edward and those guys are just an outstanding crew there. We will return Carson Lunick, who was an All-Conference Player of the year before, but he was injured the first game of the year. He broke his leg the first game of the year against Rocky, and he didn't get to come back. So I think he's going to be a good one for us. And then, as you mentioned, Caden Hull and Gage Gilbert and tight ends. I think some very good young tight ends for us. And Samaj Clark was, probably the top receiver in our league. He's going to return for his senior year as well. So we have some guys that really came along at receiver. That all those receivers and tight ends return. It's just we feel that we have some younger guys, at running back that are really going to give us a lot of things as well going forward. And it's just a matter of what's going to happen at the offensive line, and our guys will have to be able to step up that crew that backed up this good crew that we had.
On defense, you've got kind of your front 7. You've got a couple of good pieces at each of those levels, and Wyatt Anderson and Dylan Dahlgren and Wyatt Anderson in your D line, and then Riley Waters and Nathaniel Gillick at linebacker. But you're going to be that defensive secondary is going to have to, again, retool a little bit. You're going to be missing Jaden Hartwell and Joey DeMarco, and those guys were chaos makers in your defensive secondary there. So talk to me about getting those corners and safeties where they need to be.
Yeah, no question. Joey was the MVP of the playoff game against Montana Tech the year before. Had a couple big interceptions, and Jaden was, an All-American this year. I believe he ended up third all time in our career interceptions, and I think second all time in interception returns behind Jay Leggins. He had multiple interception returns. He was just a playmaker, so tough to replace those guys. We do feel we had some guys that played, and we're pretty excited about a couple of our freshman corners that didn't play this year, that redshirted, but we know, we're going to need to, it's going to be tested. Their teams are going to test that as we're young there. And then, as you said, we lost a couple outstanding guys on defense. Matt Anderson was a multi-time all-conference guy, but, Wyatt and Dylan really did a good job, for us. They were all conference guys, and we got a couple other pieces on that D-line. Shell Osborne at, our Zeke linebackers, returns as well. And we really feel good about our linebackers back. Riley Waters had a outstanding year, one of the top linebackers in the conference, and Nathaniel Jillick's been an all-conference guy as well. So we feel pretty good about that front seven, especially that linebacking core and those D linemen that are returning, and then we think, say our young guys are going to have to come along in the secondary as you said, we lose a couple really nice players.
So as you're kind of folding into this new conference, obviously, your other, I guess, three teams, because one that you lose there in Jamestown going D2 isn't making their way over with you. So you've got your other three teams. Which of the teams that are coming over with you do you really think is kind of maybe a contender, the next contender, or one that really has their window opening that you're going, that's a team that you can't mess around with. They'll bite you.
Yeah, I think all three of those teams are unique and how they're going to be coming in. You look at Mayville State, as Coach Larson and that crew has done a great job. They had multiple wins this year. They beat the other three teams in the conference one time. It really did it without their starting quarterback all year. I think they have just got a lot of good things going with in their program. Valley City's just traditionally been, a good program. They have a staff that's been around for a lot of years, so they're going to know what it takes as well. And then Dakota State, they didn't have their quarterback this year. He's a very good player, and I think with their geographics and proximity, they're going to have some things there. But I think that one of the things that just really it's good for everybody. I think it forces everybody to, you got to be better, and Dickinson State's going to have to be better, and I think it's a good thing. I think it's a good thing. It gives you stability, but week in, week out, when you're playing against those outstanding teams and you have a schedule like that, you're going to have to adjust. Your players are going to have to adjust. You're going to have to travel. You're going to have to play well on the road. And I think that, that's just something that all the teams from the North Star are going to have to be able to do. And like I say, we have some familiar playing those schools, so our travel may not be quite as much, but it really not much about, travel is that we get a lot of good teams that, that we're going to face. But like I said, I think it's good for the NAI, and it's good for the stability of the leagues, and gives a 14-team league is going to be pretty neat.
Yeah, and honestly, I mean, look, there are teams in the Frontier that, if you look at the SP Plus ratings, they are below anybody who is going to be coming over from the North Star. There are teams rated higher than anyone who's coming over from the North Star. I think you're, but that being said, and no slight to anyone, Mayville, Dak State, Valley City, no slight to them at all. Y'all have had your way with the North Star. You've done a great job with it over the last 10 years. It's definitely, like you said, it's going to be a challenge, and I think it's going to be a good one there. And I'm really looking forward to seeing who rises to the challenge. I mean, yeah, with Mayville State's kind of been on our radar the last couple of years with what Coach Larson has done, and obviously losing Tim Salmon there is never a look. You lose your signal caller, the guy that there's no doubt about the fact that your quarterback's the most important position on the team. You'll lose that guy, and your season goes off the rails really quickly. But I'm really looking forward to that. So what area of your program, whether it's going to be something on the field or off the field, are y'all really looking to focus in on in this upcoming season?
Well, we keep developing our guys, and that's one thing, with our program, we've been able to bring a lot of our guys up. We don't have a lot of transfers. We don't have a lot of guys that leave the program. We have a lot of stability, and I think it's just going to have those guys that haven't started, the names that you haven't heard of, but have played a lot for us, and that's where it's going to be. Or redshirted last year, it's how are you going to step up and play against these very good teams in the conference, and that's what it's going to be about. So it's going to be our job as coaches to find the right mix, and still stay recruiting. Recruiting never ends, and still, find the right fits for our program. Those pieces that you were talking about, 3 or 4 different positions, and helping us and giving us good competition, because that's what we want. You can never stay the same. Really, you're going to stay the same as far as the recruiting. You have to be able to get better, and you have to be able to get better within your own program and compete within your own program. And that's what we really push with our guys too. And that's what it's going to take, to week in, week out. And you have to have that depth. Just because I was mentioning earlier, we had 3 running backs injured at the end of the year last year, and 4 and 5, did a good job. But if you don't have 4 and 5, you're in trouble. And so I think just that depth at all the positions and guys being able to step up, especially obviously our ones, is going to be big for down the road.
Yeah, and I always want to push back against people who are like saying, "Oh, well, Dickinson State played in this conference that's not very good, yada yada yada." I'm just going to remind people that there's great talent in the Dakotas. I mean, you look at what North Dakota State, South Dakota have all been able to do in the FCS world. There were no national champions south of the Mason-Dixon line this last season. There is serious talent up in that area, and if you're able to find it, you're able to find it, and that's all that you can ask for. But overall, I'm really looking forward to the storylines out of the Frontier. That's one of several really compelling to me storylines about this season. We're really looking forward to seeing what comes out of the Frontier. Heck, I don't even know.
Sorry.
That happens every year.
My light went off.
That happens every year. Still catches me by surprise.
You got to move again. There you go.
I'm alive.
Sorry.
No, you're good.
Yeah.
I don't know that I've seen it. Maybe it's just because I haven't looked, and that could be perfectly on me. I don't know that I've seen the divisions from the Frontier yet, and so I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah, we with the divisions right now will be the 4 teams from the North Star will be with Montana State Northern and with Rocky Mountain and Montana Tech. And then the other 2 Montana schools will go with the Eastern Southern Oregon, College of Idaho, Simpson, and Arizona Christian. And then those 3 schools that are in that together there, Carroll and Tech and Western, every 2 years, and they're going to rotate back and forth. But Montana Tech will be in with the East the first 2 years.
How much money do you have to pay someone off so that you can go to Arizona Christian in November?
Yeah. There's I don't know how many teams are doing that, but I know Mayville's going to be making that trip this year, but that might be early. They're going to be making that trip early. I know a few of the officials are going to be, with the new Frontier Conference, that are going to be traveling to a few different places. So I'm sure they're probably hoping for that November move down there too.
Yeah, obviously, Arizona in September and Arizona in November, while the temperatures might not be that much different from each other, the temperature differential to what you're used to playing in November in the Dakotas is be a nice change of pace. But thank you
Mhm.
so much for coming on the show tonight. I always appreciate you taking time and coming on, and looking forward to seeing what's going to happen. It's going to be so much fun watching.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Thanks for all you're doing for NAIA football. We really appreciate it, and thanks for having me.